Hello friends, this is Shelley. Thank you so much for joining me. In this tutorial, we are going to make both of these pieces. Now we are going to start with the scarf, but I'm going to tell you right off the hop, I'd like you to go to the end of the scarf video before you begin the scarf, because if you want it longer than what we are going to make it, we're making a shorter scarf, it's 52 inches. If you want it longer, then I give you some ideas on how you can do that. But we have a wonderful member of my Facebook community and my YouTube channel community who, when she saw my Flecks beanie that is the same patterning as this beanie, she wanted to make a scarf to match. And when she did, she shared it with me. So in this tutorial, we are going to make this beanie, which I designed, and the scarf that matches, which Lynn designed. So thanks again, Lynn, actually, for being a part of my community. I really, really appreciate you sharing this with me. Once we have our machine and our yarn, we are going to begin with the scarf, and then we'll follow through with the beanie. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and check the description box below this video for a special note for links to products and also for the yarn particulars. All right, friends, once you have your supplies, we're going to get started. All right, friends, are you ready to begin? I'm going to use my 40 needle Sentro for this scarf because I love the width of a scarf and of headbands on this machine. I love this machine. But you can go ahead and do it on whatever width of machine you want. When Lynn made this pattern and so graciously gave it to me, I believe she used the 46 needle and it was beautiful. So she'll be posting that in the group, I'm sure, as soon as this video is posted. But you go ahead and use whatever machine you like. We're going to start with waste yarn. Okay, so you want to choose a color that's different from your next yarn that you're going to use, which is the first yarn of our project. Because the reason why we use waste yarn is so that when we have a project off the machine, then we can easily see the stitches of our main yarn and can close them in a straight line rather than cinching them closed. So, and you'll see what I mean if that doesn't make sense to you when we get to that point in the video. So take your waste yarn, which is a different color from your working yarn. You're going to bring your last and your first needle in line with your yarn feeder. Now, I don't know what these little numbers are here, but I like the black one to be the first one. So I take a black permanent marker and I mark that divider that's between my last and my first. We're going to cast on, going in front of that first black, behind the next one, in front, behind, in front, behind, in front, behind, all the way around. Just letting that yarn slip through your fingers so it's easily able to drop down over those needles and onto those two little pink teeth in this next round. Okay? So into my yarn feeder it goes, but I hold it between my fingers like that too so that I can feel if there's any knots coming up or if there's much tightness in the ball, etc. I have it in the second tensioner. For my waste yarn, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to knit 7 rows. That's just my normal amount that I knit. You can knit anywhere from 5, 7, 9, whatever you're comfortable with, but I do 7. Unless I'm talking to you and I lose count and I have no idea what row I'm on. This is probably 5. Let's do a couple more. And 7. Now before you get to the end of row 7, set your row counter to 0. I can do that when I stop here using this machine because my row doesn't count until farther in. But if you're using a machine like your Addi's, set your row counter to 0 before you get to the end here and it's all ready to go. I'm going to place that black divider in front of my yarn feeder right there. I'm going to cut my pink yarn, which is my waste yarn, pop that in the center between the last white, the first black. Now here's where you're going to want to grab a pen and a paper. You're going to want to start marking down color A, which is your first color. For me, that's white. I'm going to mark down color A, white, pop that into my yarn feeder. We're going to knit 12 rows. So you're going to have A, white, or you're going to have a color guide where you have A, B, and C in the 3 different colors, and you're going to just put A, or you're just going to put white, whatever you choose. I have A, white, 12, okay? And I'm going to knit 4 or 5 needles, and I'm going to pop those yarn loops down underneath the dividers there, and I'm going to take both ends of that working yarn, pull it away from each other, and it snugs up my tension in there so that when I have my project off the machine, my tension is nice on the first part of my work as well as it is on the rest, okay? Don't want it to be different from the rest. So we have to snug that up. Now I'm going to knit 12 rows of color A, which for me is white. You're going to want to know what A and B and C are, because when you make matching beanie, you want your stripes to be matching in color. The patterning to be the same. So I'm going to go till I have 12 rows of color A, which is my white. All right, I'm watching for that black divider to come around. I'll set that in front of my yarn guide just like that. Then I know I have completed to the end of the row there. I have 12 rows of white. I'm going to cut that white tail, pop it into the center between the last white and the first black, and then I'm going to choose color B, which for me is gray. So color B and gray. We want to do a jogless join, friends, because when we knit in the circular, when the next row comes around, it goes on top of each other. So then if this is my white, my gray is going to be on top of that. And you see that in your work when you have it off the machine. We want to do a jogless join so that that gray is going to be pulled back down in line with the white, and you're not going to see a split like that, okay? It'll be straight. So we're going to put our gray into the center between our last white, our first black. Then we're going to take that gray and we're going to put it on the other side of that white needle, just like that. Now I've got 2 strands under that needle that are crossing. I'm going to hold both of those tails. I'm going to knit 4 or 5 needles. We're going to always tighten up our tension, see how loose this would be if we didn't do it, and pull away from each other. We're going to drop those down. After we do our rows, we will tighten that, okay? So for this gray, color B, I'm going to knit 3 rows. So row 13, row 14, and let me just get some slack out of this brand new tight ball. And row 15. Watching for that black divider to come around, I'm going to stop it in front of my yarn feeder. Now we're going to take these 2 tails and we're going to pull them away from each other. Now you can hear it probably in this video as I do it, but you give it a slight tug away from each other and you will feel it fall into place. And then you give it a tie. I'd like to do it over here actually, but we only have 3 rows on this, so. And tie that up. We have to change our yarn. So otherwise I would have gone a little bit farther. I'm going to cut that gray yarn. I'm going to pop it into the center between my last white, my first black, and then I'm going to mark it off on my sheet that I have done those 3 rows of gray. So color B, which was gray, 3 rows. We're going to now switch to our white again. Popping that into our center between the last white, the first black. I'm going to bring this around to the other side of my needle for a jogless join. We're going to knit 3 or 4 needles. I'll do 1 more. We're going to help those loops down. We're going to pull away from each other to tighten up, and we are going to knit 2 rows. 1 and 2. Stopping with that black divider right at the yarn guide. We're going to now cut that yarn tail, and we're going to tie these off once we get a little bit more of our work done, okay? We're going to just let them stay where they are, and we're going to tie them in a bit. We're going to now take our black yarn, which is color C. I'm going to take this white one, I'm going to put it in the center between the last white and the first black, just like that. We're going to add our color C, which is black, and we're going to do a jogless join. We're going to knit 4 needles, pull away from each other, and with this black, we are going to knit 3 rows. 1. This is feeling a little tight, so I'm going to put this in the biggest tensioner. I don't like it to be so tight. 2. and 3. And there we go. We have just completed our 3rd row of color C, which is black, and we should have done 20 rows so far on our project. This is going to look beautiful, these 3 colors together. I can tell that already. We're going to take these first 2. So get these one. Well, you know what? Actually, let's wait till they're over here. It's much easier for you to see, and I like doing it over there better. I'm going to cut off this black. We're going to pop it into the center between the last white and the first black. And the next color we're going to choose is color A, which is white. Jogless join. Tighten your tension. Knit 2 rows. 1, and this will be the second one, but we're going to tighten some of these. Okay, these 2. So take your first 2, get them up out of the way. Take these next 2, get them up out of the way, and for these, and we can do this off the machine too, but we're going to do them on as we go. We're going to take these 2 and we're going to pull them away from each other until our knots or our rows fall into place, and you will see it and you'll feel it. See, it just stops. It just stops where it's supposed to. I just love it. So that's 1. Tie that nice and tight. Don't tie the first one too tight because you'll tighten too much on your rows there. It's the second knot that you want to do really tight. Now let's do this one. Back that up in the top right corner of your screen. You can click on that and the gear will show up, and then you can change the speed, slow it right down, and watch this fall into place. It's quite. And we're going to leave this one until we have a few more rows higher. It's easier to do when it's at least 3 or 4 rows down. So we're going to leave that one and we'll get to it in a bit. Let's finish our second row of this color. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and mark that off on my sheet. We should have 22 rows done already on our project. Let me recap for you. Color A, 12 rows. Color B, 3 rows. Color A, 2 rows. Color C, 3 rows. Color A, 2 rows. Now we're going to change over to color B, which is gray. Let me grab you down there. We're going to pop that into our yarn feeder. We're going to do our jogless join. Knit 4 or 5 needles, help those down, pull away, drop that down into the center. We're going to knit 3 rows. This is 1, 2, and 3. And there we go. I finished the 3 rows. I'm going to tick that off on my tally sheet. We have done 25 rows now, just completing 3 rows of color B, which is gray for me. We're going to cut that tail, pop it into the center between the last white and the first black. Taking color A, which is white, we're going to pop that back into our yarn feeder. We're going to do a jogless join. We're going to knit 4 or 5 needles. We're going to tighten that tension, and we're going to knit 7 rows. So until you get to row 32, but soon we're going to tie some of those jogless joins. Let's do 1 more row. This is 3 of the 7. I'm going to pass the guide there. We're going to pick these up. We're going to go down till we find the one that hasn't been tied yet, and we're going to pull it and tie it. Cut it off. Take the next 2, pull it and tie it and cut it off. And these are far enough down I can pull it and tie it and cut it off. You want it to be at least 3 rows down before you do that, and it's easier. All right, so I'm going to keep going till I get to row 32 on my counter. Finish row 32, and that will be 7 rows of color A, which is my white. 31 and 32. My yarn's working much, much better in my machine with just the biggest tension. I had it in the middle one and you could hear it snapping and it was very tight, so I put it to the last one. Okay, so 32 rows done. That is our white. I'm going to tick that off on my tally sheet. We're going to cut this off, put it in the center between the last white and the first black. Next, we are going to choose color C. That is our black. Popping that into the machine. We're going to do a jogless join. Tighten up our tension at the beginning. And we're going to knit 25 rows of color C, which will take us to row 57. I'm going to do 3 of those rows, and then I'm going to tighten up my jogless joins. This is the third one. I can then go ahead, tighten this, and you'll see the magic once it's off the machine. You're gonna love this if you haven't done it before. I'm gonna continue knitting until I have done 25 rows of black, and that will take us to row 57 on the counter. All right, keep going, friends. All right, so 57 rows done, and my work is almost touching the table, so I'm gonna pick it up before I change my colors, and we're going to just roll it over onto itself into a donut. If it starts to touch the table and you don't take care of it, it'll start bunching up like this, and you don't want to drop a little loop off those 2 red teeth. So what we do is we roll it into a donut every 15 or 20 rows going forward now. And it also helps to keep the tension nice and tight around the inside of the barrel here, which helps those loops to drop down over the teeth and over the needles and onto the teeth. So you want to always make sure you do that. I am at row 57, or I finished row 57. I'm going to cut off my black. Oh, I am not, because, I mean, I did, but I'm not. If you do what I just did, because I stopped to teach and I didn't realize I wasn't at the end of my row, I cut my yarn. Here's what you're going to do. Or this is what you do if you run out of yarn too in the middle of a row and you need to change it. I'm going to just pop that between those needles that I just left off at. I'm going to put another color in there of the same one. I'm going to knit 3 or 4. I'm going to fix that tension. Then I'm going to right away tie these. You don't need to do a jogless join when you change your colors of the same color. So I'm joining those 2. I tie them just like that, and it's as though I never cut my yarn. Okay, so maybe I did that so I could have a teaching moment if you needed to change yarn. Now I'm going to stop it at the front of my yarn feeder there. We have just completed our 25 rows of black. You should have 57 rows done on your counter. We are now going to, I'm going to tell you the next 3 colors. So listen carefully and mark this down. We're going to do 2 rows of color B, which is gray. Then 2 rows of color A, which is white. Then 2 rows of color B, which is gray. So I'm cutting my yarn. I'm going to add my gray. I'm going to do a jogless join. I'm going to knit four needles. Oh, this is not, make sure it goes down into the very peak of that little nook there, or your needles won't pick it up. Okay, you're going to start each row the same way we've been doing, tightening up your tension. I'm going to do 2 rows of gray. Then I'm going to do it, change the color, do a jogless join with my white. Then I'm going to do 2 rows of gray. So 2 gray, 2 white, 2 gray. And we will fix all the jogless joins after that. So just go in and do all 6 of those rows. And when you have that done, I'll see you back. So I'm going to do 2 gray, then I'm going to do 2 white, and I'm going to do 2 gray. Okay, friends, how did that go? We're going to fix these joins all in just a little bit, but we're going to cut that gray. We should be Finished row 63. We're going to begin row 64 in a second. I'm going to pop that gray into the center. We're going to take our color C, which is black. Do a jogless join. Knit 4 or 5 needles. Help those loops down under. Pull us away from each other to tighten this tension. We are going to knit 16 rows of color C, which is black, and that will take us to row 79 on our counter. So 16 rows. Let's do 3 rows and then we're going to fix our jogless join. This is 2, and let's do 1 more, 3. We're going to move it on past the guide there, starting row 4 of this set. We're going to go all the way down to here, and we're going to tie. You don't want to miss any of these. You want to make sure that you get them all. Take the next 2 and tie, and the next 2 and tie, and are these far enough down? Yes, I believe we can do these ones too, and tie. All right, let's complete 16 rows. Okay, I finished my 16 rows of black. I picked up my donut and I rolled it so that it's a little bit tighter and brought that up a little bit higher there. And now we should have finished row 79 on our counter. I'm going to tell you what the next 3 colors are because there's 2 rows in each color. We're going to do color A, which is white, for 2 rows. Then we're going to do color B, which is gray, for 2 rows. And then we're going to go back to color A, which is white, for 2 rows. So do 2 rows white, 2 rows gray, 2 rows white, and I'll see you back. All right, so now we're going to cut that white. We're going to pop it into the center. So I just did 2 rows white, 2 rows gray, 2 rows white, and I've tallied them off on my, ticked them off on my tally sheet here. And now we're going to switch to black, which is color C. We're going to do a jogless join. Well, we're going to fix our tension here, and we'll tie off our jogless joins in just a minute after all of these rows. We're going to do 7 rows of black, which will take us to row 92 on our counter. And we're almost to the point where now we're just going to do a mirror image and go the other direction. But we're going to do 7 rows, taking us to row 92, 89. I'm going to do 1 more row and then I'm going to tie off my jogless joins. 90. Let's go past it. I'm now on 91, but let's fix these. And cut it off. None down there that I missed. Nope. And let's do the next one. It's so satisfying when you feel it fall into place. And cut off. And the next one. And on a lot of my videos, we do this off the machine, and that's just a little bit of a different technique. I won't show you that for this particular video, but if you're watching any of my other videos and you see me do the jogless join, you might see it done in a little different way, okay, when it's off the machine. So I'm going to finish till I get row 92 done. And this is row 92. Watching for that black divider to come around. There we go. I just completed 7 rows of the black. Now we're going to do 1 large chunk that is in the middle between our mirror images. So what we did now all the way up to here, now we're going to do a large chunk of color A, which is white, and then we're going to go backwards and do this exact same thing that we did, but going from this color all the way down to the other color, so that half of our scarf, both halves of our scarf will be a mirror image of each other. Okay, but for now I'm going to choose my color A, which is white. We're going to pop it into our yarn feeder. We're going to do a jogless join. We're going to knit 4 or 5 needles. We're going to help that down under, tighten up our tension. We are going to knit 55 rows of this color. All right, friends, so I just finished my 55 rows of white. Our counter should say 147, white being color A. All right, so we did 16 different color changes before we got to this large section of white. And so now we're going to do the exact opposite. So we're going to go back up to C. We're going to change over to C, and we're going to do 7 rows. And then we're going to change to color A and do 2 rows. And we're going to go back up that chart in the opposite direction. All right. So that is how you're going to finish off your scarf. I don't feel I need to stay with you for that. Okay. I'll just recap one more time. We did 16 color changes. Then we did, on the 17th one, we did 55 rows of white. Now we're going to go backwards. We're going to start with this color and work our way the other way, following the same row counts. Okay. So have fun. I'll see you when you get to the end. All right, so I thought I'd hop on and just lead you a little bit here. So from my 55 white that I did, I've then did color C, which is black, 7 rows. I did color A, which is white, 2 rows. I did color B, which is gray, 2 rows. I did color white, which is A, for 2 rows. And I did color C, which is black, for 16 rows. I'm at row 176. I'm going to now do 2 rows of gray, 2 rows of white, 2 rows of gray. All right, finish that section. It's time to roll this up a bit more, but not past where my jogless joins need to be tied. There we go. Pop that beautiful thing into the center. There's my ends from here. So we just did my 2 gray, 2 white, 2 gray, and I have 182 rows done on my counter. I'm switching to black and I'm doing 25 rows of black. That will take me to row 207, and then I'm going to just keep following the chart up until I get to the top of where we started, and that's row 1. And I'm going to see you when I get to that point. All right, friends, I just finished my last color change, which was the end of my scarf, which is the same as the end of the other side of the scarf where we started. So I finished on 12 rows of color A, which is white. And I'm going to cut that yarn tail, pop it into the center between the last white, the first black. I already made sure that I tied off all my jogless joins. I'm going to add my waste yarn into my machine. We don't do a jogless join on the waste yarn. It's going to come off. We don't even have to fix the tension at the beginning. I'm going to take this pink and make 12 or 7 rows with it, but generally then we would, once we finished our 12 rows of waste yarn at the end of our project, then you can cut the yarn, put it in between the last white and the first black, and then rotate your barrel twice and it comes off. But when you do it that way, all the stitches are open, they're loose, which means that it can start unraveling very easily. And because we want to close up the end, I want to make sure that I tighten up the end of my waist yarn too. I'm going to actually stop right here. This is enough. So if I was to cut this off, pop it into the center here, and then rotate my barrel twice, it would let go of the project, but all of these loops would be free to start dropping the row. And if you're doing a quick join after and you know, you're not going to be tossing anything and it's even a smaller piece, then I would do it that way. But for this one, I want to make sure that I don't drop my rows before I get my end closed. So I'm going to cut a tail that's long enough to go around my barrel 1.5 to 2 times. And we're going to cast off our machine with the drawstring cast off. However, we're not going to cinch it closed like what we would with normal drawstring cast off, but we just want to hold those stitches. So I'm going to turn my barrel. Once those needles drop down, then you can pick up your stitches. So then this line going through these stitches holds those loops. So when you're working to close your end, your row isn't going to start unraveling on you. So I'm going to pick off all of my stitches. Pull straight out to the side, not up, because if you pull up and you pull too hard, you're going to take the loop off the next stitch before you have a chance of putting it on your needle. So you don't want that to happen. I'm going to go around. I'm going to remove all my stitches and I'll see you back. All right, we have our piece off the machine. I'm excited to unroll it. We're going to unroll this lovely piece. And again, this was a member pattern. Lynn, and I'll have her name in the description box below, created this scarf pattern to go with the beanie pattern that I created. And I was excited to make it. Let's give it a stretch. And lengthwise, get all those rows lined up. We've already tied our knots, so we're good to go. Now this is a shorter scarf. Okay, so what I'm going to suggest before we tie it up, I mean, it's not short, it's, let me just, it goes around your neck and it's like a double wrap cowl. If you were to wrap it around your neck, it goes twice. There's not a lot of extra length to it. So if you want to add more length, look at how I tightened that. These are my jogless joins. This one I tightened pretty tight. If you want to add more length to it, I'm going to take the liberty to say that what you should do is add maybe 15 rows to the black on this side, 15 rows to the black on that side, and maybe 15 on the white if you want to make this a little bit longer, or make these black panel, or leave the white the way it is and make your black on each side equal amounts in length for the length that you want it longer. So if you do 20 rows on this side, you have to do 20 rows on this side. That's what I would suggest that you do if you want this longer, because this is a short scarf. I'm gonna love it this length, because sometimes when you have your jackets on and stuff, you don't always want to have this big long thing that's hanging down to your waist. So this is a nice size for that. So I'll measure the length once we get it done, but I want to just play with my joins here. Because we tightened them on the machine, I want to just play with them and straighten them out and get them straight there. Just pull up on them and even them out. All the way down. There we go. I will be honest with you, I do like tying my joins off the machine more so than doing it on the machine. I think I have more control. And I'm going to do that for the beanie. We're going to do it off the machine, just so you know. What we're going to do now is we're going to take one end. This is the end where our waist yarn is going up. Okay. And we're going to pull on that waist yarn, and you'll see that this loop right here is joined to it. And it's coming through this white loop here, and this is the first one we're going to put a stitch marker in. Then when you go off to the side here, the one that's right beside that white tail is where you're going to put your next stitch marker. We know that there are 40 stitches on this machine, so we're going to go around until we get to stitch 20 and 21, and then we know we're exactly in the half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21 are those two right there. If you're doing the 46 needle machine, then you would do 23 and 24, okay? So I'm gonna go underneath this 21, number 21, was that 21? Yeah, because this is 40. Under the 21, I'm gonna count that as 1. Then I'm gonna go up to this one and pull it through the loop on my hook. Now I've worked 2 stitches. I'm gonna come down, work that one, 3, go up, grab that loop, put it through the loop on my hook, that's 4, 5, and the reason why you wanna count, that's 6. If you're new, you want to count. If you're not new, then it's fairly hard to miss one of these loops because you know what you're looking for. But you want to count them if you're new, because if you miss one of these loops, once you take your waste yarn off, then it's going to unravel your row, and that would just be a very sad thing to happen. I mean, it would be fixable. Don't worry if you do it. Don't rip apart your scarf. But I want you to count them if you are new. When you get to the end, this bottom one will be 39, this one will be 40, or 45 and 46, or if you're on your Sentro, 47, 48. And if that's how it ends when you're counting, then you know you haven't missed one. Keep going till you get to the end. I'm at the end. I'm going to pull up on this stitch marker. That's 39 and 40. I'm going to yarn over with my tail, pull it through, that secures that. Push down that knot, and I've got my end all secured. Now, how we take off this waste yarn on this side is how we're going to take it off on the other side as well. So let me find my tail and which direction it's traveling. This direction, so we're going to roll up till you get to the very top row. Pinch the stitch, and I'm about 5 or 6 rows in, and pull out. You're going to do that all the way around. And again, we're going to do this for both sides. So there's my stitch, pinch it, and pull. If you don't pinch the stitch, it all bunches up and you get a knot. And pull. And we're going to go around, making sure you have that top row. And then you can pull this off. There you go. We have a beautiful edge. I'm going to show you how to find the stitches on the other side. And then you can go to town and take them off. All right, so your waste yarn is now on this end is going inside. Where that's coming out of, that loop that's right there, you're going to pop a stitch marker on. Go to the left of it, and this loop, this tail that's coming down into the center, is when you pull on this very top loop, it's attached to this strand, so you know that's the loop that you choose. You count around to stitch 20 and 21, you put your hook under stitch 21, you weave back and forth, you tie off, remove your waste yarn. All right, so I have it done, and this is what it looks like. Friends, this is a beautiful, beautiful scarf. Lynn, you're awesome. Like, I'm trying to get it on the camera here. But here we go. Like, that's kind of what it looks like. It's 52 inches when it's not stretched. And when I put it around my neck, it goes down almost to my waist on both sides. So once I add my fringe, you guys, I love the length of this scarf. You can go to my channel and you'll see I have many different scarves. I have a super scarf. If you want a really long scarf, check out my super scarf. But this one is going to fit beautifully under your jacket. Throw it over your shoulders when you're a little bit cold, and you're going to love it. So you're going to hide your ends. I'll put the link to these needles. They come in a set of 3 different sizes. They're metal wool needles. I'll put the link down in the description box below. Friends, whenever you order from Amazon, please click on one of my links down in my description box below any of my videos. You don't have to order the actual thing that you click on. But if you click on my link, then my channel gets supported by whatever order you make. So I'd appreciate that if you do that before you make orders on Amazon. That would help me out and be a great way to support my channel. I love this. Now, this would be a beautiful man's scarf too, wouldn't it? Like, just beautiful. Okay, now we're going to make a fringe for this lovely piece. And I'm going to choose my small Yip Yip fringe. This is a 9 is going to be a 4.5 inch fringe, because this is, let me just see. I pulled this out of the closet. It looked like the right size, but I forget how I actually did this. Yes, this is 4.5. I don't know why I got 9 inches there. That's why that messed me up. This is a 4.5 inch fringe. Now we are going to make all 3 colors. I'm wrapping it 60 times. So it's 4.5 inches here. Ignore that. And when you wrap it and cut it, this fringe becomes a 9-inch length. Well, that's why I put that there. Duh! Because when you wrap it around here, that's 4.5 up and then 4.5 down, that's 9 inches. But then when you put it onto your work, it's in half again, so it's a 4.5 length fringe. And I'm gonna just wrap this and wrap this and wrap this. Don't go across like this because you'll get wonky sizes. Go straight up and down and make your fringe. I'm doing about 60 on each. I didn't count this one, but that's what I did on the other ones just because then I know I have more than enough. I'll stop there. I'm going to cut that. Then doesn't matter where you put your cut. If you put it here or up there or wherever, you just need to make one cut. And when you make one cut, you just will have a couple small pieces here from the ends, but other than that, you've got a beautiful length of fringe. Set that aside, and there we go. Taking that fringe, we are going to grab our scarf. I'm going to take 3. Now, I will admit, I have not done 3 different colors like this on any of my scarves on my channel. I do 2 colors, but I have not done 3. And I'm looking forward to the change. We're going to put it in half just like that. You're going to take a crochet hook. I'm going to just grab my 5mm. You're going to go up from underneath up, because when you go underneath up, this is the right side, because I'll show you why. You're going to take that loop that's in half. You're going to pull it through. Then you're going to either use your fingers or your crochet hook. I like to use my fingers. I'm going to grab all those strands, pull them through that loop, and pull tight. Now this is why it's the right side, because now your line is going across the top. On the back, it's like a little knot. So always start from underneath, now that we know, and I'm going to go over two stitches because this is a wide fringe, pretty wide fringe. 2 stitches. I'm going to take 3 more. And if you grab a really small one, short one, just from the ends, then get rid of it. Put them in half, loop them over your finger and put them in half like that. Pull this through. If you want to leave your hook in there, you just pinch the top there, pull those through, and then pull down on that knot. And there you go. You've got your second fringe. And you might have to pull on all of these colors individually just so that they're all snug and tight the same amount. And then I'm going to miss one, go into the next one, evenly space them all the way around. Now here's what you're going to do. You're going to make sure that when your scarf is in half, that you have the right side facing here too. So you don't want this twisted and then just choose this as the right side. Although when it's around your neck, you honestly don't know, but I know. I pay attention to detail. And so this coming all the way around is the same side as this one. So I'm going to go from underneath and do it that way. So put your fringes on all the way across. And when you have that done, I'll meet you back. All right, there you go. Got it finished. And I only did 10 on each side, so I got a whole slew of these left, but I'm not throwing them out because these are great fringes. I'm going to save them, use them for another project maybe down the road. And there you go. All right, friends, let's grab our 46 needle machine and move on to our beanie. Alrighty, so I have my 46 needle machine set up and we are ready to begin our beanie. Taking our first color, which is, I'm going to stick with the same coding for my colors for the beanie that I did for the scarf. So color A is white, color B is gray, and color C is black. And we're going to start with color B for our beanie. And we're going to cast on. We're going to bring our last white and our first black in line with our yarn feeder, just like that. And we're going to cast on with a drawstring cast on. We're going to loosely go behind, in front of that first black, behind the next, in front and behind, all the way around, just letting that yarn slip through your fingers. Before we get to the end, we're going to set our row counter to 0 so it's ready to begin. This cast on row does not count what we're doing right now, but the next row counts as row 1. It's behind that last white, into the yarn feeder it goes. Let's crank out our first row fairly slowly, giving that loop a chance to drop down off that white needle onto those 2 little red teeth. Because there's no weight of a project pulling it down, you have to go a little bit slower, and that is why we cast it on a little bit looser too. Row 1 complete. I always pull this down. Now that you have the row 1 done, you basically can find the speed and the tension that your machine and your yarn play nicely together with, okay? And so for me, I'm using BERNAT Premium. I hold it between my fingers like this, so I can feel if there's any tension issues or knots, etc. in the yarn as it's being fed. And with BERNAT Premium, you can go pretty fast because our machines love this yarn. But this is generally about the speed that I like to keep, and you want to keep your speed tension even, or your speed even. If you stop and you slow down, you speed up, you slow down, you speed up, you're going to have little lines in your work from the difference in tension. All right, so I'm going to keep going, and for this color, color B, which is my gray, I'm going to knit 50 rows, 50 rows. So I'm going to keep going, and when I get to row 50, I'll see you back. All right, so I have my beautiful 50 rows done, and we're going to switch our colors. I'm going to cut off my tail of the gray, which is color B, and I'm going to pop it into the center. I'm going to put color C, which is black, into the center. We're going to do a jogless join, and we are going to knit 4 or 5 needles, help those down under, pull away from each other like what we've been doing, and we're going to knit 7 rows. Because we've done the scarf already and I've done all these steps with you, I'm going to show you the color changes as they come, but then I'm going to go off camera as I knit them, okay? I've got my 7 rows of color C, which is black, done. And friends, we're going to fix our jogless joins off the machine this time so that you can see how I do it that way too, as if you're new. So we did it on the machine for the scarf. We're going to do it off the machine for our beanie. So I've got my 50 rows of gray. I've got my 7 rows of black. Now I'm going to do 2 rows of white, followed by 2 rows of gray, followed by 2 rows of white. All right, so I finished my 2 white, 2 gray, 2 white. We're going to open our latch, pop that tail in between the last white and the first black. And by the way, we have knit 63 rows so far. Now we're going to switch to color C, which is black. And we are going to knit 14 rows. All right, so I just finished 14 rows of color C, which is black. And now I'm going to cut my yarn tail. I'm going to do 2 rows of color B, which is gray, then 2 rows of color A, which is white, then another 2 rows of color B, which is gray. All right, so now we are going to switch back to color C, which is black. I'll grab it here. And we are going to knit, let me just check my chart here, 27 rows. 27 rows of color C, which is black, and that will take us to row 110 on our counter. I just finished my black. My counter says 110, and now I'm going to change over to color A, which is white, and I'm going to knit 7 rows, taking me to row 117. Friends, we are getting close. Let me roll this up. Let me make sure my camera is actually recording. And let's cut off our white. Pop it into our center. We're going to now do, 3 rows of color B, which is gray, 2 rows of color A, which is white, and 3 rows of color C, which is black. So you're going to do 3 rows of gray, 2 rows of white, 3 rows of black. All right, so what I just finished was 3 rows of color B, which was gray, 2 rows of color A, which was white, and 3 rows of color C, which was black. Now we're going to do 2 rows of color A and 3 rows of color B. So 2 rows of color A, which is white, and 3 rows of color B, which is gray. Friends, that just took us to row 130 on our counter. We're going to open our latch, pop that into the center. We're going to take our last color, which is color A, white, and we are going to knit 10 rows of color A, white, taking us to row 140. Having completed row 140, you're going to cut off a long tail that's able to go around in length around your barrel 1.5 to 2 times. You're going to pop that tail into your center. Make sure it's between the last white and the first black because we still have to knit these 2 needles. We're going to cast off, doing the drawstring cast off. So once those needles drop down, these are free to take off. I'm going to take off one at a time till I can get some slack on the back of my project here. Pulling straight out to the side, not up, because if you pull up, you might risk dropping the loop off the next needle. Now I've got a little bit of slack in here. I can probably take more than one at a time. Okay, place your finger over that next one if you need to safeguard it from falling off. And we're going to go around and we're going to remove all of our stitches. There we go. Okay, so are you excited? We have our beanie off the machine. Let's check it out. See how it is. Let's unroll it. And we're going to put it in, we're going to stretch it and then we're going to put it inside out because we have to fix our jogless joins. Stretching this. Oh, I'm going to love this just as much as I love the scarf. All right. Let's turn it inside out. And friends, I am going to show you 2 ways to fix your jogless joins. I'm going to start down here because it's easier to see. And then I'll work my way up to the top after. But you're going to take your 2 tails here. There's 2 ways to do it. If you put your hand on your piece so that one finger's above the line and one is below, you see how this is offset. You're going to push down just to hold your piece in place. You're going to take both of these and you're going to pull up. You heard that, you felt it. Now just stretch it out a little bit and then tie it off. On the scarf, I tied them a little too tight, and that's when you're on, doing it on the machine, it's harder to judge than it is to do it off the machine. And you're gonna see, because when I'm done all these, I'll show you and you'll see the difference between these joints and the one that I did on the machine. Okay, here's another one. I'm gonna do the same thing. You see, clearly see the jogless, or how there's a jog in that color. I'm going to pull up, give it a little bit of a stretch, and tie. Don't tighten this one really tight or you'll pucker the project, which is what happened on the scarf in some places, but I was able to unstretch it. Here's another way to do it, which I'm going to move down to another row so that I have all these tails out of the way. Okay, I'm going to do all these other ones, but I just want to show you another way. You're going to take these, you're going to separate them, you're going to pull them apart, and then you can see when it lines up. See how that has lined up now? You can see when it lines up, which you can't see when it's on the machine and you do it. So I kind of have a few regrets that I did it on the machine, but at least I could show you that there is another way. Okay, now I'll take this other one. No, I don't have any regrets because I've done it on the machine many times. I think I just tightened some of them a little too tight. And then there you go. And you tie it off. So that's how you fix your ends of your jogless join when you have it off the machine. I'm going to fix them all, and then I'm going to turn it the other side, and we're going to take a look at the magic. Okay, go ahead, do them all. Don't miss any, friends. Be sure that you get them all. Okay, so I got them all done and they look great. There we go. Right across. They're beautiful. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to put your hand through your beanie, grab the end and the tail, and put your beanie in half. Bring it right in half, just like this. And then I'm gonna just smooth it out so it's not all funny on the inside. Take that inside tail and let's give it a pull. And as you tighten it, I want you to straighten it out because it gets all curled in on itself and bunches up. And if you make it nice and smooth, you'll have a way nicer closure. And cut that one off a little bit. There we go. I'm going to put this on my needle. We're going to go around the first row of stitches. You can clearly see them there. Just pick them up and pull. We're going to go all the way around and reinforce this. These are other needles that I like. I usually see me using my metal wool needles, but I really like these ones too. And I will link them in the description box below for you. No worries, they'll be there. And we're gonna tighten this. And there we go. I'm just gonna tie it off in a little knot. Pull that knot down with my thumb to tighten that. We're going to then leave that tail outside. We're going to take this other one. We're going to do the exact same thing. So smooth this out. Pull it. Reinforce it around the top row of stitches. Having reinforced it around once, I'm going to pull up on that inside one so it's nice and close to the outside one. We're going to tie one. Don't pull that too tight. I mean, tie it firm, but don't pull it so tight that you snap it because trust me, it'll snap easier than you know. We're going to cut that off, put it back on our needle, and pop that in between. I'm going to put my hand in there, it makes it easier. In between the two layers. And out. Pull and cut off. Let's take a look at both sides before we add our pom-pom. I'm going to just take my hands and I'm going to work this. Now if you fold it up, you've got the black and white predominant. Well, there's lots of gray in there too, but that's one side. Let's look at the other side. Oh, I love it so much. It's so beautiful. And here's a solid gray, and you roll it up and you have your cuff like that. You guys, how pretty is that? Actually, I need to smooth that out on the inside so that your brim is where it should be here, because then when you fold it up, this is in the center. So you see how I did that? I'm actually glad that happened because I could show you. This is the gray, predominantly gray side. Oh, I love this set. If you're looking for like this is screaming male to me. Like, of course it can be for a female too, so I don't want any nasty comments, but this is screaming a man's set to me. In these colors, you make them in whatever colors you like, but I mean, as a woman I would wear this too, but if you're needing a men's gift, friends, make it in this color and they're gonna love it. They'll probably love the solid side more than they'll love the striped side at the top, but you never know. Here we go with the striped. I love it. Let's add a pom-pom. There we go. We've got those 3 choices. I took those pom-poms and I just shook the heck out of them, or you can blow dry them on high heat for 15 seconds and you'll get a beautiful pom-pom there too. But white, gray, or black, they all look awesome. We're going to attach the black. Then I'm going to show you on the other side. I'm going to take my crochet hook. I'm going to pop it in that center there. Now, you know that I use pumpkins for most of my hats. If you're watching my videos, you'll know what I mean by pumpkins, and I'll have those linked in the description box below as well, because they're awesome. But I found these on Amazon, and I love them. They're little wooden pom-pom holders, and we're going to bring this elastic through. We're going to hook this little holder onto there, just like that. How pretty, hey? And there we go. Oh my goodness. It's so gorgeous. I absolutely love it. Quickly here, show you the other side. Remember, you got to put your hand in there and you got to smooth this down because you need this section here to be the right length so that this is centered. Yep, that's the one. Well, so is that. Nope, not that one. Either one of these. Look at that, friends. You choose. I like them both. Gray. I don't know. I like black again. So I think black is the winner, but I'm going to put the gray one on this side. And I'm going to show you. Pop that crochet hook up in there. The pumpkins, you don't need a crochet hook. That's the nice thing about them. And you just would use a little bit wider of a circle as you're opening. And that would work for you. I love pumpkins as well. But look at that. Gorgeous. Love it. So this is my pattern. I have it on the Flecks Collection. You'll see it there with different yarn. And the scarf is Lynn's. So Lynn, once again, I want to say thank you for your contribution to my channel. There we go. How beautiful. All right, friends, thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial. Please, as always, post your work in my Facebook group when you have completed your projects. I would love to see your color choices as well. So again, this beanie is reversible. You can wear it either way, and it looks beautiful. So thanks again for joining me. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. And friends, I hope you have a blessed day. I'll see you in the next tutorial.